Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're basically going to build a plant from scratch. We'll explore the incredible internal machinery that turns simple things like air, water, and sunlight into actual life, and we'll be focusing on those high-yield concepts that are absolutely essential for your exams. I mean, it seems almost like magic, doesn't it? But you know what? It's not. It's just an incredibly efficient internal operating system. So let's dive into this and really explore the key processes, especially those that are super high yield for the NEET exam. So here's our game plan. We're going to follow the journey of energy and resources through a plant in 5 clear sections, all the way from how it gets its raw materials to how it uses them to grow and thrive. All right, first things first. Before a plant can do, well, anything, it needs to get and transport all the essential building blocks for life. So let's take a look at its internal plumbing system. Okay, so check this out. A plant basically has its own transport network. Think of it like a highway system. You've got the xylem, that's the one-way street bringing water and minerals straight up from the roots. And then you have the phloem, that's the two-way street, delivering food, all those sugars made during photosynthesis, from the source, where it's made, to the sink, where it's needed. So how in the world does water defy gravity and get all the way to the top of a giant tree? Well, the most accepted theory is this really elegant 3-step process. It all starts with a pull from the top when water evaporates from the leaves. That pull is then transmitted down an unbroken column of water, all because water molecules love to stick together, that's cohesion, and they also stick to the xylem walls, which is adhesion. And this right here is a huge point for your exams. You have to remember this name, cohesion tension theory. It's a fundamental concept that pops up in questions all the time, so make sure you really get those 3 steps down. Okay, let's move on. With water now delivered, the plant is ready to fire up its solar-powered sugar factory. We're talking about the incredible process of photosynthesis. At its very core, photosynthesis is the ultimate energy conversion. It's called a physiochemical process because it links the physical energy of light with chemical reactions that build sugar. I mean, plants are literally creating food out of thin air and sunlight. It's amazing. Now, this whole process is split into 2 main stages. First up is the light reaction, which happens in the thylakoids. It uses light to split water, release oxygen, and create 2 critical energy packets, ATP and NADPH. Then comes the Calvin cycle. Now here's a key exam tip. Despite its old name, dark reaction, it does not happen in the dark. It's just light independent. It uses the energy from that first stage to turn CO2 into sugar. So how exactly is that light energy captured? It's through a process called the Z-scheme. Light first hits photosystem 2, which gets an electron all excited. As this electron travels down a transport chain, it releases energy that's used to make ATP. Then, that same electron gets another boost of light energy over at photosystem 1, giving it enough juice to create our second energy molecule, NADPH. Now, both ATP and NADPH are ready to go for the next stage. Okay, but not all plants fix carbon the same way, and this is another neat hotspot. C3 plants, like tomatoes, use an enzyme called rubisco, but sometimes it can be pretty inefficient and lead to this wasteful process called photorespiration. C4 plants, like sugarcane, have a secret weapon. They use a different enzyme first and have a special Kranz anatomy that concentrates CO2, making them way more efficient, especially in hot, dry climates. All right, so the plant has made its sugar, but sugar is just stored energy, right? Now it needs to cash in on that energy to power all its cells, and this is where respiration comes into play. You know what's really cool is this beautiful symmetry you see in nature. The overall process of cellular respiration is the exact reverse of photosynthesis. One builds up and stores energy in sugar, the other breaks that sugar down to release that energy. And the payoff is absolutely huge. Breaking down just 1 molecule of glucose with oxygen, that's aerobic respiration, yields around 38 ATP molecules. This is the energy currency that powers literally everything the plant does, from its growth to transport. So, the plant's got energy, but what tells it how to use that energy? How does it know when to grow or when to flower or when to drop its leaves? Well, let's take a look at its command center, the plant hormones. This table right here is pure gold. It breaks down all the major players. You've got the promoters like auxin, gibberellin, and cytokinin that stimulate growth. Then you have the inhibitors like abscisic acid, that's the stress hormone, which slows things down. And then there's ethylene, which is kind of unique because it can do both. This is a super high yield topic, so you'll want to memorize this for the exam. Plants don't just rely on internal signals. They also take cues from their environment. Photoperiodism is basically how they read the seasons by sensing the length of daylight, which tells them when it's time to flower. Vernalization is similar, but it's a response to a period of cold, making sure the plant only flowers after winter is over. Okay, we have built our plant from the ground up. Now, let's lock in some of the most critical, high-yield facts and figures that you are definitely going to need for your exam. Here are 5 essential takeaways. First, chlorophyll A is the main pigment driving photosynthesis. Second, rubisco is the most abundant enzyme on Earth, for better or worse. Third, Cran's anatomy is the C4 plant's superpower for efficiency. Fourth, the oxygen we all breathe comes from water splitting at photosystem 2. And finally, that last point on mineral nutrition is key. The nitrogen cycle is a process that converts atmospheric nitrogen into a form plants can actually use to build proteins. So let's talk about the energy cost. To fix just a single molecule of carbon dioxide, a standard C3 plant has to spend 3 molecules of ATP and 2 of NADPH. Make sure you keep those numbers in mind. Now, take a look at the C4 plant. It spends the same 2 NADPH, but it has to spend 5 ATP molecules. So why more? Well, that extra energy is the price it pays to run that special CO2 concentrating mechanism. It's a big investment that pays off big time by helping it avoid wasteful photorespiration. When you think about it, a plant is a perfect, self-sustaining, solar-powered factory. It solves these huge challenges of energy capture, transport, and storage with incredible elegance. And that leaves us with a final question. As we look for sustainable solutions, what can we learn from this silent, green engineering to power our own world?